Okay, well, I want to talk about what you guys are doing specifically for people that are over 60, but let's get into the meat of our conversation today, and that, of course, is ways you might be getting ripped off.
Sure.
What are some common ways people are getting ripped off?
Well, you can think of fraud in two main categories, Stacey. One is where the victim is being actively deceived into giving away critical personal information or the money itself. And that might be someone posing as an authority, posing as a loved one. They might be posing as a bank or technical support or a government agency. We see all of these things. They might be building a relationship of trust over social media or the phone. And so much of the fraud that we see is rooted in exploiting the inherent trust that many seniors want to have in those around them. You don't want to think that the world is this way. I don't want to think the world is this way, but unfortunately, American seniors are just under attack from scammers. And then the other kind of fraud you see is where a victim's information is captured without their knowledge. Your banking information might be picked up from a hacked website, or your personal information is published on what's called the dark web. There's one breach of a company called MoveIt this summer that exposed the social security numbers of 60 million Americans. That was just one breach. So it was Charlie's experience with all of these types of fraud that inspired the creation of Charlie Fraud Shield, which is a comprehensive and personalized set of services to protect our customers and their money. The fraud is happening everywhere.
And you know what? I bet you this is true, Tony. I bet you people actually do think they hear these things. Obviously, this isn't the first time this stuff has been covered. And they hear this stuff and they go, well, that wouldn't happen to me. I'm too smart for that. I mean, everybody thinks that, right? And yet that's when it's going to happen to you.
I think fraudsters are counting on that level of overconfidence.
Hey guys, and welcome to Money Talks News, the podcast. In this episode, we're talking about the top scams you're likely to see in retirement or maybe before retirement and how you can avoid them. Did you know that more than $28 billion, yeah, that's billion with a B, is stolen from those aged 60 and older every year? So if you're in retirement or approaching retirement, how do you avoid becoming one of these depressing statistics? Today, we're going to talk to an expert on banking for retirees. He's seen it all, and he's ready to talk to us about what you're likely to see and how to avoid becoming a victim. I'm Stacey Johnson. As usual, my co-host will be financial journalist Miranda Marquardt. Hello, Miranda.
Hello, Stacey. I'm excited about this because someday, many, many, many years from now, I might want to retire. So.
Well, and I'm really interested because I am over 60. Listening in and sometimes contributing is our producer and novice investor, Aaron Freeman, who is not over 60. Hello, Aaron.
I'm not over 60, but the way my brain's going, I could be susceptible to some of these scams.
And today we have our special guest, Tony Brancato. He's the head of product at Charlie, a company that focuses on 62-plus banking. Hello, Tony.
Hi there. Good to be here.
Are you over 60?
I am not over 60, but I know a lot of people that are.
So I'm the only one on this podcast who really gives a damn about this. No, because I would imagine...
And many years we'll care about it. Many years.
Up on all of us, yeah.
I would imagine that a lot of these scams apply to people of any age anyway, don't they? I mean,
absolutely. This is happening to everybody, for sure.
Okay, let's not scare away our under 60 audience. Okay, now before we start our podcast today, a couple of notes. We don't give financial advice here because we don't know you personally. So make sure you do your own research and consult your own experts before acting on anything that you hear on this podcast. Additionally, we need to acknowledge our advertising relationship with Charlie. Even though they are one of our partners, it doesn't affect our opinions. And in fact, as we dive into today's podcast, even though we apparently have a business relationship, Tony, would you explain what Charlie is? Because I'm just really not that familiar with it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Charlie is what we describe as the new standard of 62-plus banking. We built Charlie from scratch, from the ground up, for the needs specifically of retirees. There are 10,000 people a day retiring in the United States. The average retiree is living paycheck to paycheck off of Social Security. They're under a constant attack from fraudsters. And we've designed Charlie to help retirees make their money go further, to protect them from fraud, and to just help them live their best lives in retirement.
Why is it called Charlie?
We like to think of Charlie as your helpful nephew that might be, tech savvy, helping you get your computer set up or making sure that you're doing all the right things with your settings. In this case, Charlie is your advocate and your assistant with all of your banking needs.
Yeah, I did a little research for this podcast, and I've got from the National Coalition on Aging, I think is what it is, government impersonation scams is one of the common ones. Do you know? Are you familiar with that? Can you give me an example?
Sure. Often, what will happen is someone calls you posing as a government agent, saying that your Social Security is at risk and that you need to hand over some kind of personal information or go buy a set of gift cards and read the numbers of those gift cards back. And I know this sounds crazy, but they call and they scare you and they convince you that you absolutely need to do something that may not make a lot of sense otherwise, and then can steal hundreds or thousands of dollars from you in the process.
I'll tell you something. Back when I was in my 20s, I was an investment advisor, and I remember covering stories, and especially I did TV news too. Aaron and I were a team. We did a lot of TV news on this topic, and we would say old people are real trusting because they're from a different generation when you could trust everybody. But now I'm in that generation, and I learned not to trust people, when I was in my 30s or whatever, and now I'm in my 60s. People are still falling prey to stuff like this. I mean, shouldn't they have figured this out a long time ago, not to fall for these scams?
I think some of it is that the sense of urgency that is often put on these calls, the level of sophistication that goes into designing these scams, they can be very convincing. You have to be really vigilant. It might be that you're trusting. It might just be that it's such a scary moment when someone calls you and tells you that your Social Security savings are at risk, that heightened state of panic will cause you to make a mistake.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And here's one.
According to the...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, according to an Internet Crime Complaint Center, fraud for people 60 plus is resulting in $3.1 billion in losses, and it's an 82% increase in losses from 2021. So, I mean, it's not that people are getting smarter. Right. And crime is reducing. It seems to be increasing.
Absolutely. In the research of developing Charlie, I've spoke with hundreds of retirees. Literally everyone that I've spoken with has lost between hundreds or thousands of dollars to a scam at some point in the last few years. And a small fraction of them told anybody about it because of the shame, the fear. You don't want to think that this kind of thing could happen to you. And so it's really terrible.
Interesting. Well, the next one that I had on my list, and I don't mean to usurp what you wanted to talk about, but was with something Aaron and I covered together as TV news reporters, sweepstakes and lottery scams. We went to somebody's house who had been taken for everything because she thought she'd won a contest, more than one. And it was one of the saddest stories I ever covered. She lost everything. She took out a mortgage on her house. And all this was people saying, you won a Cadillac, you just need to send us $1,000 for the taxes. And this woman, she thought that they were going to show up with a Cadillac. And she had her hair done. She'd hired a photographer to have a picture taken next to his Cadillac. And this poor woman had lost every single dime she had. And it was just horrible, just terrible. You remember that story, Aaron? Oh, yeah.
And while we're there filming her and interviewing her, the scammers were actually still calling her.
Unbelievable.
The Postal Service, the Postal Inspection Service, they were on the phone yelling at the people who were trying to call her. And they didn't care. They'd laugh. They just hung up. I think they were Jamaican people. But anyway, it was really sad. And so have you seen that scam too, Tony?
We've seen that. We've seen a lot of scams from Publishers Clearinghouse is one that I think is still around and still pretty common, that fooling people into thinking that they've won. You see a lot of free iPads or free money being passed around, and then people just giving their account information, thinking that there's a prize on the other end of it. And generally, the rule of thumb is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And so we encourage our members to just be really vigilant about these kinds of opportunities that seem like they're just great deals, because they usually are not.
Well,
You
it
know,
also
I did-
seems
oh, go ahead.
like it's just a lack of understanding in technology. Like some of these scams are, they call you up and they just get you to say the word yes, and then as soon as they get you to say that word, they record your voice, and then they can use this to get into other things like your bank account, stuff like that. So
Sure. Well, we advise one of the things we talk to our members about is just if it's a phone number that you don't recognize, banks are not going to call you and ask for your information. If someone does and it seems convincing, you can ask questions. You can call them back. You can hang up and go and find the official number on the back of your card or on the bank's website and make sure that you're using the real phone number, that you're really talking to the bank, because the fraudsters will call and pose as voices of authority, and your bank's not going to call you and ask you for your personal information. They just don't do it.
You know, I'm kind of depressed by this whole topic, Tony. I got to tell you. Look, guys. I've been a consumer reporter. I've been a consumer reporter for 30 years. I was on 80 TV stations. I've had this website for 20 years, and all I've ever said is, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. And obviously, it's not working because we're still having this conversation. And I mean, how come it? Why don't people get this? Why do they fall for this stuff?
Well, Stacey, that's what really gave us the confidence that we were doing something important and necessary in building Charlie and offering banking services specifically designed for this age group, because it is a really, even though fraud's happening to everybody, we feel like this is a unique set of challenges that this generation is facing. And with Charlie and with this product we built called Charlie Fraud Shield, we believe we've designed something that can truly have a meaningful impact and protect seniors and their retirement funds.
Yeah, I want to hear about that too. We're going to take a break in a minute, but before we do, something just occurred to me. AI is going to make this mushroom, isn't it?
Yeah, AI is one of the things that we're paying very close attention to, because now it will help fraudsters make much more sophisticated and convincing looking fraud or sounding fraud. And so again, this is why, remaining vigilant, questioning, and being open to telling your trusted loved ones when something does seem suspicious, or if you've been a victim of fraud, actually talking to your friends and family about it, and building that network of support is so important.
It really, and I was just thinking the grandparent scam. Where the kid is supposed to be calling, and they've been kidnapped or they've been arrested and they need money right now. Well, I was just thinking with the ability of AI to create video. I mean, you could take somebody's picture off their Facebook page and send it to grandma, and she may think it's you. I mean, there's just a lot of things that AI could do that's going to make this a lot worse, I think.
Yep. Well, one thing actually on that front that we advise our customers, and I do this even just with my family, is that we establish what we call a secret phrase that only we know, and it's something unique to our family history. And if on the unlikely and would be terrible and unfortunate event of a situation like that where someone was calling and saying they had been kidnapped, that we have that secret phrase that we make sure that we would exchange with one another, so you really can be sure it's a family member on the other line.
That's a great idea. What's the phrase?
Very tricky.
I guess that wouldn't be secret anymore then, would it?
Secret anymore.
Before we take a quick break, I want to ask you guys a question, because this is a really easy way to solve telephone scams, and that is, I don't answer my phone ever. Do you guys have? So show of hands, even though we're not on video, who answers their phone here? Does anybody on this podcast answer their phone, unless they know who it is? Obviously,
no.
No, I don't answer. I even have my phone on an Apple setting that sets it up so that it just ignores phone numbers that aren't in my contact list.
How about you, Tony?
Same here. I don't answer the phone for any number that I don't recognize.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty simple thing to do, and I wonder how many people do that. Now, my wife is incapable of not answering a text. I mean, she will answer a text no matter what time of day or night it is. I won't even answer those sometimes, even if it's somebody I do know. But I'm not about to answer the phone ever, unless it's somebody that I know.
Your wife should know that texting is another real meaningful fraud vector. So you can't, even though you might cover it by not answering the phone, but you should also be wary of what's coming in through text as well.
Well, I don't think you understand, Tony, that my wife always answers text. There's just no way she's not going to. I mean, I
Fair
can hold a
enough.
gun to her head and she'd answer it anyway. And I have. No, I haven't actually held a gun to her head. Let's take I want to take a really quick break, and then let's come back. We can talk about some more scams. But I'm really curious as to what your company or any company could even do about this stuff. Okay, guys, we're halfway through our show, which means it's time for us to pay some bills. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break to talk about what we can do to spot scams and what to do if you've been scammed. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Before we start, though, if you like what we're doing here, do something for us and share this show with your friends and family on your favorite social platforms and subscribe to the podcast. Takes you 2 seconds. Really helps us, though. Okay, now let's talk about actually, let me ask you this. I'm really curious about this. And this isn't because you're apparently one of our commercial sponsors. What can your company do that isn't being done by other companies to help people?
Sure. So I was talking before about the situation where a victim's information has been compromised. We see it when their Charlie card has been used for something they didn't buy. Often it's in the middle of the night or with a merchant name that looks like a common name, like Amazon, but slightly misspelled. And what we witnessed with fraud activity and what we've learned through our research inspired us to build features like sleep mode, where the card goes to sleep when you go to sleep, and you won't allow any of these nefarious transactions, so you can truly sleep with ease. You can block all online transactions, or if you just shop on Amazon or Walmart, we'll let just those transactions through. We text our customers all the transactions that are happening on their card if they want, so you just have maximum transparency. You'll catch something right away if it doesn't look right. We let our customers block international transactions, and these are just some examples of how we help our members manage fraud. How
does your card know when you're asleep? I mean, I can fall asleep at any moment. Okay,
sure, that's fair. That's fair. Well, it's at the tap of a button, or you can set a schedule.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, don't a lot of banks, like I have American Express. And when I'm traveling, it'll say, "Are you out of town?" You know, it's looking at my expenses and seeing what I'm charging, and I have a thing if it's over $500, it notifies me. So, isn't this the things you describe? Are they common? Are you doing something unique? Is what I'm asking you.
I think the features that we've built are unique. They are designed to be maximally easy to use and really designed around the lifestyle and the living patterns and behaviors of the 62 plus community. If you think some of these features that the limits and the international blocks that you mentioned, they might be buried under 17 different menus within the Amex website. I don't know if you've tried to navigate Amex.com, but it's a mess.
It is hard to navigate. I agree.
So part of what we've done is we've made all of these features extremely easy to use. You can set up Fraud Shield in under 5 minutes or less and feel confident that you are protected.
So this sounds very cool. Do I have to be over the age of 60 to use Charlie?
Unfortunately, Miranda, you do have to be 62 years or older and be collecting Social Security to become a Charlie
Miranda,
member.
I can join and you can't. Actually, I'm not collecting Social Security yet, though, either. You said you have to be collecting Social Security?
That's correct.
Well, I have a question about that then. So my wife's parents are in their 70s, so are mine. And my parents are pseudo tech savvy, although it's getting harder for them. And my wife's parents barely can operate a flip phone. And she has to control their finances 100% or else they wouldn't be able to function. You know, one of the things that helps seniors from getting, scammed a lot is at least having children that are on top of it. Do you have controls for maybe, a sibling or a child to control that?
I love that you asked that question. One feature that we're very proud of is called Copilot, and Fraud Alerts Copilot is a feature that allows you to add a trusted loved one to receive the same suspicious activity alerts that we would send you as a Charlie customer. So if someone, if your address has changed, or your email address, or your phone number, or some kind of limit has been significantly changed on your account, we're going to allow you to notify your family members that are that you've assigned as co-pilots. They don't have control over your account. They don't have visibility over the actual transactions, but it serves as a second set of eyes for the account.
Miranda, would you be my co-pilot?
Sure. Yeah, I'm down.
If a charge comes through at a gentleman's club, it is not me.
Okay, is that what I'm to tell your wife?
No, not to tell my wife anything. I talk about my wife all the time on this podcast, Tony, because she doesn't listen to it, and I'm doing that to get back at her.
Got it.
Anyway, now I have something I wanted to ask you about that's really important. I think a lot of people think that if they, we've got $250,000 FDIC insurance on our bank account. And we have brokerage firms with the SIPC insurance. But I don't think people realize if somebody gets access to your bank account, the bank doesn't have to reimburse you for that. Is that true?
Well, certain banks do and certain banks don't. I can say specifically for Charlie, at least, that we offer all of our customers Visa's zero liability policy, which will protect our customers in case of any funds lost due to fraud. You should, as a senior, you should be checking with your bank to make sure that they offer that kind of protection. Because beyond just FDIC insurance, many banks do offer this, but often they don't necessarily flaunt that feature. And it's definitely something that you should ask for and frankly demand if your bank hasn't told you about it.
Is this something do you pay extra for, or you just ask them for it?
No, you shouldn't have to. Certainly on Charlie, you don't pay extra for that protection, and you shouldn't have to pay extra for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's really important to understand what you have to do to get your money back when you have been defrauded. It was like a few years ago, somebody actually ended up getting access to my debit card, and then, going on a spending spree. They had a great Christmas. And,
no, that's horrible.
Yeah, they got it through a data breach because I'd used my debit card at like a store here in town, and then there was like a big data breach. Ended up getting $1,500 just wiped from my bank account. And in the meantime, of course, you've got all of these automatic things coming out, right? Like your insurance payment or your rent or whatever it is. And you're trying to do all this stuff. The money is gone from your bank in the meantime. And I did eventually get the money back. But the thing that my bank and I fought over was who is going to be responsible for all of the fees. because once this particular bank account was like, before I could move money in there, quite a few things had gone through, and I had just gotten hit with overdraft fee. And so that was our big disagreement, was who was going to pay the fees. In the end, my uncle, who's a lawyer, wrote a nice letter, and we ended up just splitting the cost of the fees.
God, I'm surprised you had. Wait, how did the breach occur? Was it the bank's problem?
No, it was. I had used the debit card at. It was toward the end of 2015 when there were a whole bunch of those major retailers that were having those security breaches.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it was during that's the best I can assume, is that it was during that time period, because I had used my debit card at one of these retailers that ended up getting breached.
So it wasn't the bank's fault.
No.
But they still should have refunded the fees.
So they refunded all of them. I got all the money back because since they used the debit card number, and I reported it within the time period required. Debit card reporting is different than credit card reporting. So you have to be aware of that. Since I reported it, I got it all back in terms of, what was taken through the debit card, but the resulting fees and overdraft fees, that was our point of contention.
Interesting.
these kinds of situations, I think so many people find themselves in. If you're a Charlie customer, we have a US-based customer support team on call to help you navigate these kinds of situations. And I think if you're not a Charlie customer, just contacting your financial institution and fighting for what you believe is right is so important. And I think, again, being vigilant and being on top of it is so critical. And it's unfortunate that you have to be on guard all the time. You know, we encourage our customers. We have a thing called transaction transparency, which helps you read your transaction history in a much more legible way. I don't know if you've ever tried to read your transaction history. Sometimes it's very unclear what's actually happening and like where the transaction is coming from. We worked really hard to try to make our transaction history legible so that you can be confident that you know that each transaction was coming from a reputable source that you meant it to be.
Interesting. Now, okay, so let's close with this too. What we got some time, but I want to know, what do you do if you've been ripped off? Okay, obviously we know now we could call Miranda's uncle. He's going to help us. but what else can we do?
I think reporting any kind of scam to both your financial institution as well as if it's tied to a specific vendor, making sure that you've contacted that merchant to make sure that they know that whether they've been compromised. I think talking to your family is so important. We talked about Copilot earlier, but I can't emphasize this enough, that finding trusted friends and family to be part of your financial network and protection circle is so important to making sure that you're both stay aware and that you have someone to talk with, and that you are staying on top of the new scams that are coming out every day. But I think just being communicative and reporting these things to your financial institution is a critical start.
Well, while you were talking, I put into Google FTC fraud report, and it immediately came up, reportfraud.ftc.gov.
Mm-hmm.
Does that do anything? I mean, I guess you should always report it so the FTC is aware of it. But
I think the FTC really is a great resource. You know, we also direct our customers to go to consumer.ftc.gov as a resource for learning what the latest scams are that are out there. I think part of it is, you know, maintaining, again, that network of communication, so we can all stay vigilant together, because the scams are changing and evolving so quickly.
If you had one piece of advice, let's say you're talking to Uncle Stacy, who's over 60, and I say, what's the most important thing I can do to keep from getting ripped off? What would you say, Tony?
Well, Uncle Stacy, I would say that it's okay to ask questions and to be vigilant and to be a little bit suspicious when something seems off. If someone's calling you and acting with a sense of urgency and telling you need to do something immediately to hand over some piece of personal information, just take a breath, take a step back, and be really sure that whoever is asking you for that piece of information or trying is the real deal, because so much of this fraud is happening because it's exploiting the sense of trust and creating an artificial sense of urgency. So just taking a breath and checking your sources is, I think, one of the best things you can do to make sure you don't make a mistake.
So like a lot of us, we use credit cards and stuff like that because we get cash back. And I was going through the site and I noticed that it seems, what are the little tiles here? It says you can earn 3% on money that you save, and you've got like 53,000 fee-free ATMs you can use. So that's pretty cool.
That's on a checking account. You can earn 3% or savings.
It is a checking account, and it is a debit card. But we offer 3% earnings on all accounts, and then fee-free ATMs. And the network exactly is 55,000 ATMs across the country, and Walgreens, CVS, common pharmacies.
Now, what Miranda alluded to is that she was using a debit card, at a store, and kind of nailed her bank account, which we're all told this is like the biggest no-no you can do. You should always use credit cards. They're much easier to deal with purchases and stuff like that. So I'm guessing you guys have a lot of the same security control features that credit cards have.
That's correct. We have 24/7 monitoring on our debit card, advanced state-of-the-art fraud monitoring, in addition to the features that we mentioned before, like sleep mode and block online transactions. Behind the scenes, there's very sophisticated fraud monitoring, and anything that we track that might be nefarious, we will block those transactions. That's right, Aaron.
This might add into more conversation, but I was just wondering, I noticed a lot of the fraud seems to be phone calls. And online on YouTube, there's this guy that seems to be able to take these phone calls and immediately find out, where this, office is doing the fraudster, and it makes a whole video out of it, calling them back. Why is it our own telecommunication system can't, squash this like a bug? I don't understand.
You would think so, huh?
Yeah, it's really frustrating, and especially as we've been as with Running Charlie, as we've been exposed to more and more of these frauds that are happening. It's not just over the phone; it's over email, it's over texting, as we discussed earlier. It feels like something that it's a national crisis. And we're doing everything we can to protect our customers, but it is something that we need to be talking about in our politics, in our policies, and I think exactly as you said, I think our communications infrastructure has a responsibility to address these issues.
Yes, that's something I've been raging about for decades. That banks make it really easy to get credit. I mean, fog a mirror, they give you a credit card, but boy, once that credit card is out of your hands and into the hands of a fraudster, your life can change in radical ways. And I think, actually, as a matter of fact, closing question: what do you think about freezing credit? Doesn't that help?
We advise freezing your credit to prevent cards from being spun up in your name, I think, is a great way to protect yourself. It's something that I do personally. And I think it's a very clever way to protect yourself.
Oh, I see something else here on your site. It says Social Security payments 3 to 5 days early.
That's true. That's so one of the, thank you, Aaron. One of the features that we recognized early on is trying to give our customers financial flexibility. And so we offer our customers access to their Social Security payments 3 to 5 days early. And that sometimes can make a really big difference if you've got bills to pay and you need that money just a little bit earlier.
Very cool. Okay, we are out of time, actually. We are never, however, out of a topic. Dig a little deeper. You're going to find links to lots more info in our show notes. And remember, if your goal is to make more, to spend less, to retire rich, your online home is moneytalksnews.com. And don't forget to check out Miranda's online home as well. That is Miranda Marquit, MARQUIT.com. And you can also visit charlie.com if you want to talk to Tony. I don't know if he'll actually be at the website, but their website is charlie.com. If you've got a question, comment, or topic you'd like to suggest, tell us about it. You can email us at hello@moneytalksnews.com. That's hello@moneytalksnews.com. One final thing. If you like what we do something for us and subscribe to our podcast. So if you like us, show us and subscribe. Tony, thanks so much for being here today. You're an awesome guest.
Thanks,
I am Stacy. You're welcome. I am Stacy Johnson.
I'm Miranda Marquit.
And I'm Aaron. I'm glad I'm not 62 yet.
Well, I'm not 62 either. I'm 68. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We're going to see you right here next time.